I have the opportunity to interview many leaders around the world and in different countries and different sort of backgrounds. And I had an interview with a guy called Arman Grigoryan, and Arman has over 10 years of experience in leading successful projects across various domains and industries. Now, he does that by applying best practices of project management, things like the project management methodologies, things like Agile, Scrum, and Lean Six Sigma. Now, he and I had a fantastic conversation because he actually asked a question, and we discussed this question that's actually asked by a lot of people around the globe. And that's this: are leaders really born? And what a fantastic question. So I wonder what the answer is. And so we talked about it a lot, and it's something that you will probably get to enjoy, of course, as you listen to this episode. Enjoy.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos.
Hey there, listeners. Welcome to the Leadership is Changing podcast. Great to have you here with us. I have a great guest with me, and his name is Arman Grigoryan. And Arman, a massive welcome to you.
Hey, hi Denis. Thanks for having me. We're really pleasure to be here and discussing with you interesting topics.
Excellent. Thank you. And great to have you here. Now, whereabouts in the world are you today?
I'm in Armenia. This is a small country, we call it the gate between Asia and Europe. One of the ancient country in the world, the first in Christianity, currently becoming more and more important in the world, and also famous for being a tech hub. Some of the people even call it like the next Silicon Valley. Let's hope for that for the next year. So we're contributing a lot for that.
And what's the population of the country around about?
Something around 3 million for the last time I remember. It's a very interesting fact in there. So in Armenia, there are less people living inside Armenia than outside. So it's like 3 million inside Armenia, but outside Armenia, like something around 10 million abroad.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a bit like Greece, whereby they've got the Athens as the main city where my dad's from. My dad's from Greece, the capital city, Athens. And then when that's millions. And then when you go outside of that, where's the next biggest city? Well, it's actually Melbourne, Australia. It's not actually in Greece. And it's pretty interesting to see that. Hey, what we'd love you to share with us is a little bit about your background. What have you done? What do you do today? Because I know that you talked to me about being an agile coach, but also some senior program or project management side of things too, which is great to hear from you because you're actually out there with teams, with people. So tell us more about your background. Tell us more about you.
Yeah, great. Thanks. So my history is going back to 2008 when I finalized my studies in university. I'm the specific people that I graduated as a software engineer, but never wrote a single line of code because I was taken to the army. And so in Armenia, there is obligatory service in army for 2 years. So I went into 2008 to 2010. When I came back from there, I get a dilemma basically to start learning once again, because in a digital era, like 2 years, it's a serious gap about knowledge. So you have to start everything again, or to find something alternative. So there was a very interesting condition. So I got an offer from a company very far from being in IT. It was construction, engineering, electrical manufacturing, very bit of telecom in there, but they offered me very interesting things, project management. And I was like, oh, okay, it's 2010, Armenia. What's doing a project manager? I know the word manager, obviously, but I didn't know what does it mean in there. So I needed a job and I started in there. And very fast, I realized that it requires much more than a standard Googled management word is. So I started to digging up, understanding what does it mean to work with people rather than work with papers. That's quickly escalated. So back in 2014, I was already head of PMO and a commercial director there. So something that we call a C-level executive. I'm being honest, I quite didn't like that, because while you're promoting to the more executive position, you start to talk less to people, but work more with the papers. So back in 2015, I realized that I want to come back to my, let's call it home place in IT. And I started to look for a job in the project management. There was an interesting gap in there. Many people, despite my experience as an executive, as a project manager, won't allow me to go further in their interviews because saying it's a huge step back. from being a commercial director, head of PMO. You won't have a motivation or something like that, which was quite interesting to hear because for me, it was something new. So back in 2015, I started to work as a remotely. So this was an option for me. And until 2018, 19, I was working remote for various projects abroad, like Switzerland, Singapore, Sweden, and some kind of these countries. And most of them involved a thing that was new for me, which calls Agile leadership, Scrum Master. And so I was had to learn it on the go because it was really different from what I was doing in a telecom industry, in the electrical industry, because there was a hierarchical project management. So I realized that I have a gap in my education. In 2015, I went to learn to pursue my MBA. Well, technically, it was an MAB. It was a Texas university, which has a branch in here. And I started my formal education in Agile. Got my PMP certification, which gives me a lot of understanding about what it is technically called what I'm doing. Because I know I had a lot of practical experience, but I didn't know how it's called in there. And after that, the Scrum Master certificate, then back in 2019, I realized that I want to come back, not to come back technically. I was here in terms of remote working. I wanted to come to the Armenian community in IT. I had a job in local outsource company, worked with the US clients. And somewhere around 2019, I started teaching. And by saying teaching, I mean like teaching students. And this is very interesting story about this because I never thought I can because I was a shy person, not so much in public speaking, not so much in talking with the big crowds or something. But in 2019, I wanted to try. And like here, like 5 years later, it's like more than 500 students with the 70% of success. I'm hugely proud of this number. And I start to provide some coaching because, as I said, Armenia is a technical hub and it's evolving. And while you're doing technical projects, you need people who are working in with flexible mindset, with just all this understanding how to deliver things and how to work with people. After that, I got a very good opportunity to join a worldwide company, Adobe. And this was also an interesting experience because they were trying to build an agile leadership community there. So they're trying to transform the company. And I spent 2 amazing years in there working with amazing people and doing really great stuff. But after that, I love challenges and I get a new experience working for the Singaporean blockchain community. So we all heard about this blockchain, Bitcoin stuff in there. It was for me like, this is something new for me. Let's start from there. This was a short-term contract, but it was really interesting for me because I worked it with the people all over the world. And this was amazing. One person is from Mexico, one person is from Argentina, and something like that. Short-term contract after that, back in my working again for the local companies in Armenia, and currently providing service and working for the Danish-based company called Purple Fire as a senior project manager. Again, I had an amazing team, diverse entire the world, and I do proceeded with my coaching stuff. Started to provide some services for the companies, IT companies, banks, educational. One of the most recent one I'm very proud of, together with the Project Harmony, which is an American non-governmental organization. We provided the comprehensive training for rural areas in Armenia, so local villages or something outside of the Yerevan. So this is one of my dreams, to provide knowledge for all the regions in Armenia. Yeah, so pretty Bechtel, pretty packed 13 years and like looking forward for another 13 ones.
Yeah, very good. And I like that. It's so true, isn't it? That 2 years out, when you were doing the military service side of things, life changes so quick. Everything just moves on. And so, yeah, things do get out of date as well. Yeah, cool. You've done a lot. There's Agile, PMP, there's the blockchain, Bitcoin, other stuff as well. AI. What are your thoughts on AI? Is it something we should be worried about? Is it something that's going to take off? What should leaders start to think about in the AI space?
Yeah, it's the big elephant in the room. Everyone is terrified about AI. This is a hot topic right now. I had a very robust opinion about AI. I think it will not, let's call it, take out us from the industry or for anyone from the industry, but it will definitely take out people who are not using AI. So basically, AI is helping us. So we need to look on AI as a helper rather than replacement. And based on that topic, we're saying I have read an amazing thing that a lot of countries in the world right now investing in people to teach them, coach them to work with AI because they don't want a like wide amount of people being out of the industry. So it's about integrating. We shouldn't be terrified for this. This one happened before. Any industrial revolution brings out such challenges. This one is bigger because I was raised in 90s on the sci-fi movies, AIs and everything. So I know how it's working in the imagination, but we shouldn't be terrified. We should be using that to achieve greater things.
Yeah, it's a good way of saying it because I think a lot of people were scared of the internet. A lot of people who had cassette tapes many years ago were scared of this thing called CDs or DVDs. And then
Yeah.
this digital online thing, iPod came along. What? And everyone was a little bit scared of that. And then, hey, what about that other IT thing called the cloud? What is this? And everyone's scared about it. But you're right. If you're not going to work with it and you're going to become irrelevant and be left behind. And you have a risk of that as well. Not everybody, but some people will be. So yeah, like what you say, don't be scared of it, embrace it, move on and use it, which is good. Hey, a few other things to talk about, but I think that do you go to the gym? Do you exercise? Do you do that often?
Yeah, this is like a heavy part of my life, and it's something like a therapy for me because that like all this coaching, project management stuff, like modern life is really stressful, and we're living in an environment which is changing a lot, and sometimes the changes are stressful. So you need something to be relaxed on. I know that the heavy weight lifting and the relax is not working together, but this is for me. This is these 2 hours when I wait to the gym, usually in the morning when my kids are in kindergarten, and then my day is not started yet. I'm fully in my side, like in my mind, and preparing my body and my mind for the heavy day. And then during the day, that's the heaviest part, physically at least, was in the morning. So you can solve something during the day without thinking about, okay, I sit all day long in front of computer and doing some stuff. So yeah, I made something good from ready from the morning.
It's important, listeners, as you're thinking about what you should be doing. Armin's just shared the fact that he's actually exercising on a regular basis. He's called it therapy. He talks about how it actually is helping him as well. For a lot of us, we do sit at our desks all day and it's not good. We need to get out and do some activity, which is very, very important.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
how did you actually get into leadership yourself? Well, what did you do?
Oh, that's an actually funny story because there is no actually like I will share a controversial thing in there. There is actually an idea that leadership is something that you're born with rather than taught or exercise on that. And I pretty don't agree with that because going back in my youth, I was the most shy person in the room. I was the guy who was like, as a pupil or as a student, I was sitting in the back side of the classroom without talking, hesitating to raise a hand, answer the question, afraid of public speaking. Everything changed in an army. Why? Because I was educated enough that on the popular military parades or something, our like commander in chief asked me to do some speech, to write it, which was terrifying for me to write a speech, even not, and then speak on it. Because there are two important conditions with this. First thing, people who are listening to you in the army, they had to. So they're not obligated, they are not voluntarily came and listened to you, which is more comfortable thing because people are expecting something from you. They know you. They had to. There's an order. And then there are a lot of them, they should stand straight, no emotions, so you cannot read the body language. It's like talking with the wall. But it was an interesting experience for me. So I wrote in my idea like a very good speech, but it was really a cliche. It was like pack of cliches because it like when you're in army, it's a military parade. You need to like talk a lot of big things. So it wasn't so terrifying for me. So I started to experience after coming back about if there is a possibility about what does it mean, let's go like what does it mean to be a leader, not a manager, a leader, because I quickly understand that managing people and guiding people, leading people is different stuff, and there was not much information on it in the internet like 10 years ago, so you had to do practice. So I started with small groups, working with my friends, trying to be more active, trying to be guiding somewhere. And when I introduced already to my master degree in 2015, it was much more easier. And I reflected on big on myself. I was the one in the room who was organizing stuff, who were organizing like parties or organize student events. So I gradually transformed myself about to a person who very interestingly people were looking to about expecting something as a solution or something. And it was like amazing feeling. And then you are realize that there is no limits in there. And currently, for example, I'm now with you. I'm talking on a podcast. A lot of people hear that. I'm conducting lessons. I had an event last year with more than 300 people who were listening only for me, and they came in voluntarily. So I jump in leadership, maybe not voluntarily because I had to, as I said, in army, but I definitely like it. And I see a lot of opportunity for everyone for learn how to lead people. We know we need more leaders in future,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. It's actually an interesting question as well. We need more leaders in the future, but also, are leaders already born? Or can you actually learn? That's actually a very, very interesting question. Now, my next question for you is that this person could be alive or from history. Who's your favorite leader and why?
Oh, this is a great one because I'm really fond of Elon Musk. And I know he's a pretty controversial person and many people have different opinion about him. What I like about him is that I had an opportunity to talk with a person who was not directly interviewing someone from the management team of the Tesla. And he told me a great way saying like, when I was asking what kind of leadership style is in Tesla, how these are organized, because I'm always interested about big companies. He said, there is a way, they call it Elon way. Elon way of leadership. So I was like, okay, what does it mean? It does mean that if Elon says, guys, it's possible, we can do it, then we can do it. So this is a very simple liner, and but it's like inspire a lot. And for me, like looking on the way that Elon Musk go from the last 20 years and like fundamental changes on the world, that all the projects he's executing are fundamental for the world, is really inspiring for me. I heard a very good quote which guides me to follow him is that one person, I think he was in from Russia or something from the Soviets, he said, if a person with the fame of Elon Musk wouldn't exist, we should have think about him. We should have imagined him because he inspired a lot of people to become engineers, dreamers, thinkers. So this is for me like person I always follow. So
Okay, it's good. And have you ever met him personally?
oh no, this is one of the biggest dreams I have. Like,
Okay.
I had a question once, like, do you want $10 million or 10 minutes with the person with to discuss with that? Yeah, my wife will kill me for that answer, maybe, but I will say like 10 minutes with Elon Musk.
Okay, so here's the next question for you. If you have 10 minutes with Elon Musk, you and he are sitting on a park bench somewhere having a cup of coffee together. What's the one question you want to ask him?
Oh, oof. It's really difficult to pack it in a one question, but I think the most important thing is that after all he achieved, after all, like being the richest person, being the innovator and everything, what still motivates him to wake up in the morning? Because he's the kind of person who can say, like, okay, I will skip this day. What kind of change? Nothing will change if I like take a day off. If I will dedicate this one to me, I will not go to job or didn't do something. What motivates him like to wake up in the morning like early one? I know he's like early wake upper and saying, yo, it's another day, I need to change something. So this is really fundamental question for a person who literally achieved things that people achieve for various lifetimes. A lot of people like achieve this for like 10, 15 lifetimes that he achieved for a one.
Well, that's the challenge to you now, is to set the goal for you to have that 10-minute meeting with him, to have a coffee,
Yeah.
for you to ask that question, and then let us know what he says. There you go. There's the challenge for you.
I promise. I promise I will share it if I'll have this opportunity. So that's a good goal.
Excellent. Look, the show here is called Leadership is Changing. When I say that title or this statement, what does it mean for Arman?
What I can see from based on my perspective and my environment, what I've seen for the last like 13, 15 years. So it's really impactful how it's really vivid if you look it for and based off Armenian history. So Armenia is like a post-Soviet country. So like the last 100 years we're in Soviet country, which is the leadership was pretty straightforward. You are the best worker in the room, you will be promoted to be the leader. You are the best, I don't know, architect, you will be the leader. You are the best economist, you'll be the leader. So it was pretty straightforward, which has a single small problem in there. If you are the best worker in the room, doesn't mean you will be the best leader, and vice versa, obviously. So you can lead people, but don't know how to do certain things because you have clever people in the room. So currently, what I see in here, that it's shifting. So I worked with a lot of amazing people in terms of engineering in IT in there. And couple of them, if not most of them right now, they share the common thing. So they listen to their team. They listen to the people who hierarchically, it's not a good word, but like hierarchically lower in position and should be possessing less experience or less maybe domain knowledge on the paper, basically in there. But they listen to them because they can suggest something better. They can suggest better ideas or something. And this is a very good understanding how the leadership is changing. So you are listening to your team, you are listening to the people who are surrounding you, even if they are lower in experience, maybe in the knowledge, maybe in position, let's call it like this, but they all bring something new to the table. Like it's impossible to imagine like 60 years ago in Armenia that someone like a basic engineer in a factory, like somewhere in a Soviet Armenia in there, like saying the lead engineer or the lead manager, you are wrong. We shouldn't be doing this like this. We should be like this because this is the correct way. And I have a proof for that. I can state for that because mostly he will get the answer like, it's not your problem. Do your job. I will do mine. So the leadership was a job rather than not a profession, rather than a role. I
Yep.
guess to get the most best description will be that.
Yeah, I think you're right in the sense that people do sometimes are given that leadership role. They are the best, smartest person in the room, whatever. But you're right. They may not be the right person. And then what you said right at the beginning when we started recording this, you said that you went and took a lower role because you actually wanted to do more hands-on. I think there's a lot of people today who are that subject matter expert around the domain, as you said. Then they become the leader and they miss doing that day-to-day stuff hands-on around their domain. So, listeners, if you're a leader who's not enjoying, here's something controversial. If you're not enjoying being a leader, then please say so. Go back to what you probably are doing really well. So there are people who are subject matter experts around a certain domain, and they are a star. They are flying. They're fantastic. But then they become the leader and they struggle. So either you learn to become a better leader, or you go back to what you've been doing, and it's okay for you to say if you're not wanting to do that. So yeah, I agree with you, with Arman, who's saying about how leadership is changing, and we need to look at things differently for sure.
Yeah, and the
Arman,
good example about this, sorry about it, is also my father. My father was a Soviet engineer. He started from the bottom about the engineer who do work with the screwdriver, doing all this electric stuff, and then he ended up owning his own company about being in the leadership position. One less important lesson he gave me is about as he started, he knows how the things are being done in the very, very bottom of the company, how the screwdrivers and everything is working in there. That's why when he say something or ask something or plan something, he know exactly the whole process in there rather than being like put in a position without knowing how the bottom in there and then like execute the power. Guys, you should be doing like this because I'm saying so. No, you should be doing like this because the proper process is in there. If you have other suggestions, please tell me so because I know how it goes down in there, but maybe you have a better options in there.
yeah, yeah, that's a great way of saying it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because there could be different ideas, different thoughts, different ways of doing it, or options, as you said it. Yeah, totally. Hey, look, we've talked about already a little bit about AI and we talked about technology and things like that. Life seems to be getting faster all the time, and technology is driving a lot of it, whether it's data, business, social, technology. In that fast paced, ever changing world, what does a leader need to do to be successful?
I guess the short answer is staying a human.
Hmm.
With all this data, with all this power that technology gives us, with all this AI enhancement has been going there, staying a human is the most important thing because that's what distinguishes us from technology. I remember a couple of years or 3, 4 years ago, before this AI boom, me and my colleagues were trying to recreate a digital agile coach, digital like AI based on reinforcement learning, the project manager or scrum master, something like that. And the main problem we struggle to solve, and I think is still struggling to solve, is about the empathy, about emotional intelligence, about I'm talking with people, I know a lot about their personal, I know a lot of things they share with me. And the way I analyze it, it's far from being only data. It's far from being only the results. It's about the emotional noise, let's call it noise in there. They bring with their the body language, their history about it. So if you imagine a situation, someone saying, I'm not good enough I don't feel good enough to bring this task. If I analyze it based on this data, it's only like a binary answer, good enough or not good enough.
Mm.
But if I analyze it as a human being, as a leader in there, I need to take under consideration what drives that person, why he thinks so. Maybe he had another strengths in the room. So staying a human is something challenge the humanity and the leadership will have the next 10, 15 years and even more.
Wow. What a great way of saying it. I really like it. Wow. And it's interesting how you tried to do something around a digital AI type thing around some of the agile space. There's something coming out very soon called AI agents. And it's something to think about too, which is really what you've been talking about. But yeah, there is the emotional EQ side of things missing from that for sure. So being human or staying human is a really, really good thing, and which is interesting. Now, you and I have been talking about leadership. What about the employees? Has
Mhm.
their employees' expectations of leaders changed at all?
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's another point. It's another part of the same stick, as we say in here in Armenia, about being that the leadership from the executive part is changing. The same is about other stuff. So it was expecting totally different from leaders like 10 years ago, even if not going further, like in 30, 40 years, because I was asking people, more senior people in terms of age, in terms of experience, about what changing there, what they basically describing in there, that basically like 30, 40 years ago it was something like a triangle. So people were below, they were looking in the top, saying in any question were saying he will decide, looking upstairs. And it's still something common in various aspects and domains still there. Right now what is happening in there, that employees are empowered to ask questions, they are empowered to question, to challenge leaders. And the good leader for me is expected to fulfill those challenges. So for me, for example, being an employee, for example, for a good leader, is that something that I can say, no, you are wrong, or why we're doing is like this. If there is a better way to doing that, without, it's a strong word, but without fearing about make people angry or make person jealous of saying you are questioning my abilities in front of people. No, we're all experts, we're all adults, we're all mature people, and we all have opinions. So currently the most biggest thing that is evolving is the maturity of the people and their ability to ask correct questions. I don't think that like 30 years ago, 40 years ago, there was such a big room of asking questions. People were taught a lot based on what I was asking, not to ask questions. Do your job, not asking questions. It's not your job to asking questions. Right now, literally every leader is about, I love when I've been asked questions, because that shows that people care. That shows that people are questioning me. So it must be better and better and better day by day.
It actually shows that they're thinking as well, because I think too many of them are like what I
Absolutely.
call sheep, right? Because sheep follow sheep, whereby they're actually thinking about things, which is very, very important, which is a good thing. So I like what you just said there before. They're empowered to ask questions and they're empowered to question things as well.
Absolutely.
I like the way that you just said that. That's really good. Yeah. Hey, if I was to get you to get your crystal ball out now and think about the future, where do you see leadership being in 5 years from now?
In five, it's difficult to predict something like the next week, obviously, right now with the digital phase, but let's try to think about it. So a lot of roles will change. So I know that, for example, in Great Britain, there's a great experiment. I don't remember from the scratch the name of the company. They have no leadership positions. So there is a flat hierarchy, so that people are deciding based on the common sense, or based on the voting in there, which is a good example of the company of the future in there. There are a lot of companies after COVID that make a remote working, and this is working, something that was not working 10 years ago, fully remote working. I think the leadership in 5 years will be shifting from this work, this business will not work if I will gone, to another statement. If I will gone, this business, these people will operate on their own, and this is great. And if we go a little bit deeper, and what I'm saying is about not fearing about being absent from somewhere, because your employees, your team, your company, your gang, let's go like this, will cover that because they are empowered. They know what to do, and they are leaders by themselves as well. They take care of the fraction in there. I think that's what will happen. Yeah, this definitely is happening, and it will going evolving more and more.
Yeah. I actually think that sometimes leaders are getting in the way. So then if they are getting out of the way and they're allowing people to get on with things, they might be quite surprised how people step up and do things. And I like that kind of process that you're talking about. And it's been a pleasure talking with you today. If our listeners are wanting to get hold of you, where should they go?
I'm the most active in my LinkedIn profile, and I love new people. I love new connections, and I'm the kind of annoying person who can see if there's a person content and shared ideas are interesting. I'm keen to follow or connect in there, and then drop a message. Hey, you share something that is vibing with me, so would love to be connect, even without any, let's call it a business perspective in there. Just having such a person in the loop, they share good ideas. So LinkedIn is where you can find me all the way around.
Okay, great. What we'll do is we'll put that in the show notes, listeners. So check out Arman's LinkedIn profile and connect with him, which is good. So once again, thank you so much for joining me on today's show. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure for me as well. This was a really good, friendly conversation. I even forgot that we're on a podcast. I was just talking like with a common fellow leader.
Exactly. That's it. Well, there you go, listeners. Are you terrified of AI? If not, you shouldn't be, because it's really there as an enabler to help you do your job in your business. Are leaders born, or can they be developed? That's actually a very interesting question for us to think about. But the thing here for you is to stay human. Work with leaders and individuals so they're empowered to ask questions, but they're also empowered to question. Hey, it's been a real pleasure being with you. Thanks for joining. Until next time, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.